Okay, for this session, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of one of the activities, but I want to just, to make a transition. One of the things that's come up in our earlier discussions is this idea of inequality. And I want you to keep in mind that the title of this curriculum is Capitalism Good for the Poor? ? It's not a statement, right? It's meant to be an exploration and a discussion. And there's definitely, you've seen different ranges of countries that are economically free and ways that they've set up there, even though they might all fall under economic freedom and have high standards of living for their citizens. They have set up their economic systems differently. They have different norms, different customs, different traditions, different political institutions that result in different outcomes. And so it's not necessarily saying that the way of this country is doing it is the right way of doing it, right? There's always room for improvement. And one of those things that always comes up is, or that people are often concerned about, is inequality. And so I wanted to show you on the resource Jamie shared about the World Bank's poverty and income inequality platform. One of their featured resources is this inequality indicator. They've basically taken that index that Jamie was sharing with you, where you could search country profiles, and they've taken that data and turned it into, they were able to put together a map of inequality. And so you can see most of the countries are blue, which means that they have low or moderate income inequality. And that's measured by something that we call the Gini coefficient. And so what you'll notice, I'm highlighting on Russia right here, they have a Gini coefficient of 35.3. The higher the Gini coefficient, the less equitable the income distribution is. So let me find one that's really low. See if I can hover over, like, there's Ireland. Let me come up here. 27. Where some of these countries are so tiny, it's going to be hard for me to find them. There's no way I'm going to be able to point to Singapore on here, but we could get to, let's see if I can find like South Korea. Well, let's look at China, 37.1. Canada, 31.7. Now I'm going to take you to the United States, 39.8. Now we'll look at some of the countries that have scored red. Here's Turkey, 44.4. Turkmenistan, 40.8. 44.7 for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Venezuela, 44.8. Brazil, 52. So the higher the score, and so it looks to me as I hover over these that what determined whether it was red or blue was if it was over 40. And so remember, the United States was 39.8. So had we been 40, we might have been red. Because here is 41.9 Papua New Guinea, and they're red. So the trend, though, that they've seen is that the number of unequal countries, or where the red countries, has fallen from 77 to 52. But at the same time, they've also had fewer countries with updated numbers in how they report inequality. And so that makes it harder to track. The other thing you'll notice is how they track inequality. So a lot of these countries use income, like Canada looks at how income is distributed across the economy. Same with the United States. But if I go over here to Kazakhstan, it's measured by consumption. And over here in Brazil is income. We find another consumption. Consumption was much more common in Africa. Angola, they measure consumption. And so they look at what's the difference between what the wealthiest people in society consume and the people at the bottom. How much do they consume? And we can do that in the United States. You can actually find those numbers. It's not as common. When you take income, our income distribution is more inequitable. If you were to measure it by consumption, that inequity drops, because wealthy people don't consume everything that they make, right? They get a lot of money and they save it. And so when you're comparing, like, poor families, they consume everything that they earn in income, and wealthier families consume some of it and they get to save a lot of it. So when you're comparing what countries consume, it it flattens out the income inequality. And so that's something to keep in mind with a lot of these countries where it's measuring consumption, is if it were measuring income, or if we had access to that data, it would probably be an even higher Gini coefficient. So, but anyways, that's to answer some of your questions about income inequality. That information is available as well. And just to connect to some of the geography things we've talked about, Jamie showed you this graph of the 2.5% that the poorest 10% get across the countries, whether you're in an economically free country or unfree country. But that 2.5% makes a big difference. It's 14,000 in a very free country and 5,000 in the next tier. And so if you are a country like Mexico, and live right next door to a country like the United States, where that you could come in at the bottom, and instead of being at 5%, or 5,000, be at 14,000 a year, you can see those push-pull factors that move people, and I'm just using Mexico as an example because they're our neighbor when we talk about immigration, but we could do this all around the world. People want to move where there's more economic freedom, where they have more opportunities for economic growth and advancement, where the entrepreneurship is. So there's one more activity we don't have time to do with you. It's also not really suitable for a virtual environment, but it's an activity that is called competition: who wins and who loses. And I just want to give you a snapshot of the curriculum. If you just Google if fte.org, is capitalism good for the poor, this page will come up. And these are all the lessons. Now, lessons 1 through 5 are the traditional lessons that were part of this curriculum unit. We did lesson 1 together, like our maps and dots activity is an updated version of this KWL exercise. The lesson I did on defining terms was really lesson 1. Lesson 2 is all about property. It looks at just the institutions of property rights and rule of law in detail. And lesson 3 is looks at just the institution of competition. And there's an activity called the more the merrier. And lesson 4 is about really entrepreneurship, how incentives affect innovation. And there's some activities that go with that. And then lesson 5 is about kind of the morality of capitalism. And it uses an activity called the ultimatum game to explore that. Very fun activity you can run with your students. These are the 2 new lessons that Jamie has created. Lesson 6, capitalism, economic freedom, that you saw her do earlier. We did this how free is that country activity. Lesson 7 is the one Jamie just did about how do institutions affect productivity and standard of living. And now I'm just going to give you a quick overview of this who wins and who loses with competition. So when you think about competition, do you think, are the poor better or worse off because of competition? Type your thoughts in the chat, or if somebody wants to unmute and give me your thoughts, I'd also appreciate that. Are the poor better
Hi,
or
this
worse
is
off? Trishanda.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, I think the poor are worse off. I think the poor are worse off when there's competition because they end up suffering more.
Give me an example. Like what do you think?
I think prices of groceries go up when there's competition. Oil, gas goes up. Those are factors that affect the poor. They're already struggling as it is, and then different things go up that they need.
Okay.
I go with the reverse.
You think it's the reverse, Bruce?
If you take an example like the personal computer, the first computers invented were expensive. They're hard to port around and so on. And as more people got in the game, they had to make them better, quicker, faster, easier, and they became cheaper.
Yeah. And if when you're around economics a lot, I think we take this for granted. We think it's just obvious. I was with a group of teachers in Denver, Colorado. We did a workshop, and just like Trishanda said, overwhelmingly, the perception was competition is not good for the poor. And they cited just the same exact kind of things: prices, high prices. And then they talked about companies like Amazon, Walmart, things like that. And I think, when we think about those industries like Amazon, and we worry that they don't have a lot of competition, they're kind of overtaking everything. That's actually the opposite of competition. When somebody does come in and compete with Amazon, you know, how do they get our business? Like, can anybody think of some recent competitors to Amazon? Go ahead, Susan. You're on mute.
You know that Walmart's been trying to do what Amazon's doing, but they're also kind of a mega corporation. And there are some local, like there's one, I live in Boulder County, and there's like a local service that picks up local things and deliver it to your door in a day.
Right.
But a very progressive community, and people have more money and they're willing to spend more money to do that. But on a large scale, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Right. And for those local things, you will pay more. And so, but those, so that makes it tough, right? We have grocery stores combining where I live. So, and they're saying, well, that's how we're going to compete with Walmart. And all I'm thinking is, yeah, but that's, you know, now we have one big grocery store and one Walmart and one Amazon. And there's just, it's consolidating the number of producers in the market. I prefer lots of producers. Temu, if anybody's following, you know, been shopping on that website, they like to, they compete for business by offering really low prices. The more competitors there are, competitors can try to get your business in one of two ways. They can either offer you a better service, like local produce, this is fresh, we'll deliver it to your door, we'll do this, or lower prices, or a combination of both of those things. And that attracts, you know, that, and then people will want to use that service instead. The more competition there is, the downward pressure it puts on price. And so it does take time, you know, the more and more, but the opposite of that, when markets consolidate, that's what we don't like, you know, when it's, you have all the power in the hands of a few. So let me show you the activity. Basically, the activity is a version of a market activity. And if you haven't run a market activity before, there's a link in the slides to one on our website called In the Chips. And this is a version of In the Chips. It's like extended rounds of In the Chips that you're going to do. So I'm going to show the video and set up what the, you know, activity looks like. I'm going to kind of fast forward so you can get some snapshots of what a market simulation would look like in your classroom. Oh, let me share my sound. I'm working on sharing sound, don't worry. Let's see.
This lesson, In the Chips, simulates a market for computer chips, where your students are going to be playing the roles of buyers and sellers of computer chips. It focuses on the competitive nature of markets, and students will see that the prices in this activity comes from the interaction of buyers and sellers in the marketplace. It's not set by the teacher, it's not set by the consumers or the producers of the computer chips, but their interactions and their decisions as buyers and sellers of computer chips. To prepare your students for In the Chips, hand out a copy of the How to Play in the Chips worksheet to each student. Give them time to read the instructions silently while you hand out the pre-prepared buyer and seller cards, as well as a transaction record for each student.
Today we are going to participate in an activity called In the Chips, where you are going to simulate a market. And so you've all been given a role of buyer or seller, and you can see what your role is on the card in front of you. You'll notice that if you are a buyer, you have a green card, and if you're a seller, you have an orange card. In the Chips requires some preparation on your part before you play the simulation with your students. You'll need to prepare the buyer and seller cards ahead of time, filling them out as explained in the teacher guide. And fast forward to the actual playing of the game. I'm going to talk to the buyers for a minute, okay? Buyers, what kind of prices do we like? We like low prices. We like the lower the price, the better, right? So your card says something like this, if you're a buyer. You are authorized to buy 1 box of computer chips. Pay as little as possible. If you pay more than blank per box, you lose money. Okay, do not reveal the price. Record this price on the buyer card and on your student score sheet. So what kind of price do you want to try to get in an exchange? The lowest price possible. Any price lower than what's on your card. Okay, we do a similar thing with sellers, set them up, and then we get ready to play the game. Sorry, I'm looking for my spot here. Okay. Card. And Kathy will be pick an incentive that. Okay, the market is open.
Play round 1 and watch to see that the students understand what is going on. It never fails that in the beginning you'll see a couple buyers with the same color cards haggling with each other before they realize that what they each need is a seller with a different color card. If necessary, designate round 1 as a practice round and then continue on. The timing for each round is going to depend on the dynamics and size of your class. You want to allow enough time for many transactions to take place so students can see a pattern on the tally sheet. Out there that paid $4.50? Did you find that person, Jerry? No. Buyers, did you know that there was a seller out there that was sold for $3.60? A few of them. Okay, is this helpful information? Any questions about round 1 before we get into round 2? Okay, the market is open. During later rounds, as students learn.
Okay, so what happens is the sellers are trying to get really high prices, but there's other sellers competing with them, and they undercut each other, driving the price down to be the one who gets to do the sale. And same thing, buyers are competing with buyers. And so how does a buyer compete with buyers? They outbid each other, driving the price up. So when there's competition among buyers, it protects the sellers, so they get a decent price. And when there's competition among sellers, it protects the buyers so that they get lower prices. And so that's why it's so important for economists to have competition on both sides of the market. So you'll notice in that second round, the students were up and yelling prices, ready to play right away. And that's the way these activities go. And you usually run three rounds, and they're able to see a price kind of emerge, like an equilibrium price. Then you bring it back for this activity that Jamie wrote up, which is an extension, and you limit the number of sellers. So you only hand out, 3 or 4 seller cards. And the sellers, and what do you think happens when there's only 3 or 4 sellers and everybody else in the room is a buyer? What do you think would happen to the price?
It's going to go up.
Yeah, because those 3 sellers are going to be looking at the whole room, and they're going to sell for the best price that they can get, the highest price possible. And so only those buyers with the highest prices are going to be able to get goods. And as you add more sellers, the price comes down. When you restrict the number of sellers, the price goes up. And that's what that additional round shows. It's just a variation of a market activity. Now, this is an old video. The quality my Wi-Fi isn't the greatest. The quality will be a little better when you watch it, but the video is intended to help you, the instructor, learn how to run the activity. And we'll get Jamie or somebody, a new young actress to be in a new video, doing an updated video. Let me click out of this.
Learn about the market, transactions.
Okay.
I'm not doing it until you tell me your skincare routine. So.
Okay. So any questions about that activity? Okay. Or the curriculum in general. I put a slide in here as well to show, you could directly click on that link and it takes you to this curriculum page with all the lessons and all the activities. Okay. All right. We have, believe it or not, even more great resources to share with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to share those with you.
I feel like we're one of those infomercials of like, but wait, if you call in the next 5 minutes, we're going to double your order. Okay. I'm going to replace. Okay. So what I'm going to have you do, hopefully see my slides, and I'm going to kind of chat with you through it really quick. Oh, I mean to click on that. I'm going to have you look at GapMinder and some other resources. So in the chat, I'm putting in a Google Doc. Actually, I'm just going to share that screen too, sorry, I'm going to change what I'm sharing. You're going to get a Google Doc that looks just like this. You don't have to make a copy unless you want to. You'll get this because there's really nothing that you're going to have to type up or write in. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you I'm going to put you into breakout groups, probably again of like 4 or 5 people. And what you're going to do is you're going to kind of treat this as like a little brainstorming kind of working through session. So I'm going to have you go to gapminder.org and I'm going to have you take either one or both of the quizzes. And you can take it on your own, or in my mind, what I was thinking is that somebody would share their screen and you would kind of take it together and kind of answer the questions together. And then what I want you to do is, I'm assuming as you're answering these questions, you will get many of them wrong, which is okay. You'll just kind of chat about, oh, I was shocked about this, whatever. And then talking about how can you use this in your classroom. And then I'm going to have you look at Dollar Street. And I love Dollar Street. I actually knew about Dollar Street before GapMinder. I think GapMinder, it was a separate entity for a while. And so I want you to look at the different categories. It has very visually appealing. It's very visually appealing because it has pictures of real stuff in people's houses at different income levels in different countries and all this sort of stuff. And I really like looking through it. Like you can look at toys, you can look at beds, you can look at hands, toothbrushes, toilet. My students always love to look at the toilets. It's a thing, even in college, everyone. And then finally, I want you to look at women and progress. And this is done, this is a extension from the Fraser Institute, and they actually look at how women fare in the with different economic freedom ranges. And so you're looking at, what does financial freedom look like for women, and how able are women to get credit cards, how able are women to start up businesses. And so it looks at how that ranges. So to help build up some information of, is this good for the poor? Are women in low income or in lower economically free countries, are they better or are they worse? So I'm going to put this, did I put it in? Oh yeah, I did put it in chat. Okay, so go to that Google Doc, and then I am going to get you into breakout rooms. Any questions? You're gonna kind of have to probably go kind of fast. I'll probably give you about, let's go probably 15 minutes. So you're gonna have to, maybe we ended in 30 minutes. I'm gonna try 15 minutes and we'll see where we're at. And we'll come back together and talk through it. So it's not gonna be the end of it, okay? So let's recreate rooms. All right. Okay, questions? Give me the chat really quick for questions. Just yell them out to me. No questions. Everyone got the Google Doc? It has the links on it. And then I would ideally like somebody to share the screen just so you all can see and kind of have a conversation about it. So, all right, I'm going to send you to your rooms. Welcome back. You probably didn't get through everything, and that's okay. I'm not sharing a screen. I rearranged my screens, so now where am I at? Okay, so here's my GapMinder. I had all these up for this reason. Okay. What did you all discuss? What was your experience with the quizzes? What'd you take? What'd you find out?
I enjoyed the quizzes. I learned a lot that I did not know, actually.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they give you, if you get a wrong answer, they explain why the answer is wrong and allow you to go back.
Yeah. Did they also
I really like
they also go, you got this wrong, but that's okay. 87% of everyone else got it wrong too. Made me feel like I'm not the only one. Which quiz did you do, Trishanda?
I don't know which one we did, but it was always talking about the global, the $2 a day.
You probably did extreme poverty then.
Extreme poverty.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Because I just know we was in there answering. So, okay, thanks. Someone in my group just told me.
Perfect. And what did everyone else think or do?
So some of the answers our group knew because if we had learned a few things today or able to use some logic and say, well, we learned that, so that can't be the answer.
Yeah. How do you think your students, think you'll do with your students, or how are you going to incorporate this in your students? Incorporate this.
I did GapMinder with my students, and it's great showing all the misconceptions and the beliefs. You know, everything's always focused on the negative. You know, and that the things are getting better. Not to say we're there, but they are improving.
Mhm.
There's a doomsday mentality that a lot of kids have.
Yeah. And if you'll see, there's a ton of quizzes like the plastics and oceans, global warming, life satisfaction, right? There's a lot of these are those misinformation quizzes that I think are helpful. I think I did a global, or I did a environmental one I did the global warming yesterday just to see, just kind of messing with it. Education quality, right? Global hunger. I think there's a lot of ways to incorporate this into your classes. I missed a bunch, yes, but I think it's good to debunk misconceptions. I agree. I very much agree. Did anyone have a chance to get to Dollar Street? It sounded very Sesame Street right there. How to get to Dollar Street, right? What did anyone get a chance to get there?
We only had like 20 seconds, so we just looked at
Yeah.
toilets really fast.
Of course, right? So here is what Dollar Street looks like. But you can look at, I always think hands are kind of interesting. But you can look at hands. Here's a hand in South Africa, right? Colombia. And there's what's interesting to me, here is a hand in Colombia. And what's nice is in the last couple of years, they've been adding in videos, but here's also a hand in Colombia, right? But do you notice the difference, right? $6,700 a month versus $722 a month, right? And so I think that it just kind of is a some really visually like stimulating information about what this all looks like. Teeth, toilets, you can look at pets in the world. Pets are quite a luxury. And so I think that it's not, I just think it's interesting to kind of see this sort of stuff, see some kind of humanized aspects of this. Bruce, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I just put a link in the chat here. If you've never used Dollar Street, there's a TED video. She does a walkthrough of how to use it and how it's beneficial for students. Might be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can tie this into economic freedom. You can tie this into GDP, right? It's a way to enhance all the resources we've been talking about today. And finally, we are cranking through these. Definitely could spend tons of time on each one. This is a new to me resource, this Women in Progress, and it is by the Fraser Institute. And so they're looking at how are women doing in these different countries. So, I mean, this is a pretty jarring stat. In 19 countries, married women are required to obey their husbands and or get their permission before seeking employment. So you can look at, so here is, again, they're doing that quartiles of most free to least free, and they're looking at the percentage of women in the workforce in 2017. So there's a larger percentage of women in the workforce in the most free. You can look, and it goes into a lot of different things. Here is women's life expectancy at birth. So this is predominantly just focusing on women. Education in enrollment in primary schools. In the most free, you're at 95%. At the least free, you're in 81% essentially. Those are big differences. Those are big jumps. There's a lot of health outcome differences. You can go through that. And you can read more on a lot of these. Financial independence. People with a financial account. This is quite shocking. And I think that this also goes into what is one of those categories of freedom? What was one of those categories where we measured freedom? Was it soundness of money, one of those? So there's already going to be banking issues in least free countries, but then it gets even worse for women that, only 33% have a bank account compared to 86%, and so on and so forth. Even these middle ones, right? Those are big jumps those are, I think, some of the biggest jumps in there. And there's different publications you can look at. So I think this is really interesting to use for your students. Any ideas on how you might use the Women in Progress? I know you probably didn't get a chance to look at it, or where you might have your students look at it. I'm going to add this to your class.
Women's History Month.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Women's History Month right now. You guys, everyone, Monday started up.
In Alberta, we have a class in the social studies course in grade 10. The theme is globalization. And by the time you get further in the course, you kind of talk about progress and decline. And one of the areas you're supposed to examine is women's rights and equality rights around the world. So this would be beneficial for that.
Perfect. That's amazing. I love that. I love that topic in general and the way that they're adding it. Always looking for matched data sets. I'm so happy to provide these for you. All right, so with that, we have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to pass it back to Debbie, one of the two Debbies. I don't know who's closing this out for what we need to do at the end. But I just want to say thank you for your attentiveness. You all asked some great questions, great contributions, so thank you. And one of the two Debbies, take it away.
All right, thank you. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Oh, if I can find the right one. Okay. I opened that YouTube video, looked interesting. Okay. Okay. This is the link to all of the program slides, and it's like a Google Drive folder. I just realized I should probably also put this link in the chat. I wonder if I already copy pasted it. Okay. Please open that link and let me know if that's the right one. If it's not, that's embarrassing. But that has the slides in it, as well as some other information. As a reminder, with the slides have links to all of the other team slides that you used, and all of the other websites throughout the day. I will also be sending a follow-up email probably on Monday with this Google Drive folder in it as well, and some other links in it too. You'll also notice in the folder there is the UCCS graduate credit assignment. So if you're getting graduate credit, make sure to do that assignment. You just take one of the activities from today and do that activity in your classroom, then write up a short reflection on how it went. And that assignment is due in a month from now on April 14th. And again, I will be sending out an email with further information if you're interested in credit. So I also just wanted to go over some of our upcoming programs. I think one that Jamie is doing is next Wednesday, right, Jamie?
I am doing that one.
Yeah, the Entrepreneurship Food Truck Challenge. So that's next Wednesday if you want to see Jamie again. And then I think Jamie and Debbie, you're both also doing this one-day program on Saturday, April 19th, right? So if you want more Jamie and Debbie.
The people have spoken. They want more.
Yes. But something more exciting is our summer residential programs. These are our multi-day programs that are in different cities across the US, that offer much larger stipends than our virtual programs. So we have our Economics for Teachers programs in 3 different cities. These offer a $1,000 stipend and a $200 registration fee. And then we have some other residential programs that have a $600 stipend for attending and also a $200 registration fee. Again, Jamie and Debbie are at this Entrepreneurship Economics of Innovation program in Chicago, but we also have one in Napa, in Dallas, in Vermont. So we have lots of options. If you haven't looked into these yet, I definitely recommend it. So it's during the summer, so hopefully you're free.
Richard asked if they include lodging. They do. So we provide lodging and most meals, and you just get yourself to the program, and the stipend can definitely help cover airfare or something, help get you there.
Exactly. Yes. And we provide the stipend. You'll get it as a check at the end of the program. But you can think of it as like, I like to say like, oh, it's kind of like reimbursing you for any costs you've accrued. So I appreciate everybody being here today and you doing your, using your Saturday as a professional development with us. And I thank you all for being here. And if you have any questions, feel free to stick around and hopefully one of us can answer it for you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a
Yes.
good day.
Thank you very much. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.